Hi everybody, this is David P. France coming to you from Basel, Switzerland. Before we get the video started, just if you see the video, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the BitChute channel, share this video with your friends and family, let them know what we're up to. This is DavidPFranceTV. We are a platform for creators and creative people, artists, inventors, thought leaders, small business owners, and entrepreneurs. And I really come on and do sort of commentary videos, but 2022, the early 2022, January, February, the news has been, oh my God. I mean, it's so many great stories coming out. And all of these stories, a lot of the stories involve race and gender, right? So we're going to tackle one, or at least present one, and I'm going to try to go and give commentary on the other stories such as the NFL and hiring black coaches, or the lack of black coaches. Antonio Brown, I've been watching the Antonio Brown and Tom Brady story. I mean, now that Tom Brady has retired. Of course, there's a recent controversy with Joe Rogan, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Joe Rogan and Spotify, of course. But I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg and the comments she made about the Holocaust on The View a couple days ago. Of course, I haven't had time to, when the controversy breaks or when it happens, to jump on and do a video right away. I don't have that time. But let's go right into it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away to the actual video, and you guys can listen. And then I'm going to comment further. So here we go.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that colleges, this all started in colleges and universities and not wanting to make kids uncomfortable. And we talked about it once here on the show with actually Van Jones, when he said, if I send my kids to school, I want them to be uncomfortable. I want people to push back on their beliefs, because otherwise we're not preparing kids to go out into the real world. We're preparing them for a world that doesn't exist outside of their own house.
Well, also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
Well, they consider Jews a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's about
but
going
it's
after Jews
not about
ideal race.
But these are two
Romans.
white groups of people.
Well, they go after black
They
people
see
too.
them as white.
And they
But you're missing the
homosexuals.
point. You're missing the point.
Yeah.
The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other. It's a problem. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, because black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other. So if you're uncomfortable, if you hear about mouse, should you be worried? Should your child say, oh my God, I wonder if that's me? No, that's not what they're gonna say. They're gonna say, I don't wanna be like that.
Well, hopefully.
I want to be cool.
Yeah,
and
most kids, they don't want to be cruel.
No, they don't.
And we're living in an era where people are comparing vaccine cards to the yellow stars, where people are comparing vaccinations to what Anne Frank went through.
Yeah.
So it is necessary for kids to learn about the Holocaust.
To learn about man's inhumanity to man, however it exposes itself. I have to cut you off.
I just want to say that mouse was banned, and it flew to top 20 of Amazon's rules last week.
Whoopi. Every time I hear that clip, I'm like, dang, Whoopi, why did you feel like you had to top everybody? Why'd you feel you had to top everybody, and in doing so, you messed yourself up so bad? First of all, my first thought is that when I hear her say what she said on The View, I immediately have this sort of cringe. This is what they call it. I felt, oh my God, like when she was saying it, I felt cringy, if that's the right word. And I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's because I knew when I heard it how wrong it was. And there are people who argue that what she was saying was correct. That, of course, what they're saying is from the American perspective that Jewish people and German people are both white, but that's how someone from America would see it. If you lived in Europe at the time where all of this was unfolding, what was going on was that Hitler felt that Jewish people were an inferior race. And Whoopi's comments, I would say, didn't have the proper context. And she was so definitive and almost like she was the boss of the whole, not only just of the View, but of the whole damn world, and saying, hey, it's not about this, right? And she was wrong. Now, there's some people that would argue with me and said, yes, she was right, because the Jewish people are white and the German people are also white, so it's not about race. But it's not about race from an American perspective. But from a European perspective or from a German perspective, it's a different story. And we don't necessarily know, right? We only know what we've been told or what has been written. But if you come over here and you live in Germany or you live in Switzerland, it's a different culture, different rules. And back then, I always say to people, if I could understand, knowing the German culture, how something like that could happen, just based on how the German culture is, if you will. I mean, it's very different than the United States. I mean, of course it's different, but I mean, people who live in Germany, they know it wasn't so long ago. So what do I think? Let's sort of summarize. I think that Whoopi was wrong for saying that wasn't right about race. It's not about race. Clearly someone thought it was about race. Just because she doesn't think it, or because being a Black woman or being a Black person, she can't see it because it's a skin thing. Race can also be attributed to other factors besides color. And, you know, 2-week suspension is not so long, but I guess it's the fact that she felt like she was free in the clear, that she could say something like that and people not be offended. But in this day and age where people are getting canceled left and right, I mean, I'm not saying that she should have known, because she's one of the many that is doing most of the cancel culture out there in the media. Whoopi Goldberg, for the last how many years since Donald Trump was in office, she has been leading the charge in cancel culture. Cancel culture. Yeah, she's been leading charge in cancel culture. So, you know, do I think she should be fired for what she said? No. Do I think that she is wrong for saying it? I mean, no, she has a right to say, she should have, if that's her opinion, she has a right to say her opinion. But hey, look, when people say their opinion, there's always some sort of fallout. So she's experienced that, right? She's experienced the fallout. And 2-week suspension isn't that long. But I guess the principle is that she feels that she's right. She was forced to make an apology on something that she really wasn't sorry about, and she's pissed off. Where does this leave us in the conversation about race in America? I mean, at this point in time in America, we're in a lot of trouble. Even though I'm here in Switzerland, there's a reason why I am here. But the majority of the time that I spend, outside of work, I'm thinking about what's going on in the United States. And race continues to be and still is a huge, huge deal in the United States. I don't know what we're going to do about it or what we can do about it. It's so huge. And it's such a fundamental, or it is the foundation of the United States, or the formation of the United States. You can't get away from it in terms of the history. So somehow we're going to have to figure out a way to get along. Somehow we have to figure out a way to work this issue out. I don't know what it's going to be. And look, if it wasn't for people like Whoopi Goldberg throwing this information out, or throwing this perspective or point of view out, I mean, the conversation would never be, we wouldn't be having the conversation. And I think the conversation needs to be had without people getting canceled. I can still not like what she said. I can still not like what she said. And that's okay. I still watch The View. I don't watch it like, you know, when I'm going through YouTube, I'll watch what the people on The View are saying. You know, there are times where I'm watching and Joy gets away with a couple of good zingers. You know, usually I don't, you know, I don't rock with Joy like that, but occasionally she does say she has some good jokes. And I'm always interested in learning, right? So I can learn from people who have different viewpoints and different opinions. I mean, most of us, let's say you go to school, university, a lot of those professors, they don't share your belief system. They don't share your values, but you're there to get an education. And I see, even though this might be controversial for some, I don't see watching television like The View, or even watching Joe Rogan, and I said I was going to talk about Joe Rogan. You know, I see it as like I'm being educated and I'm getting a different point of view. And even if sometimes it stings, and a lot of times it does, when you hear people's views, you know, you're being educated. You know, you can't, my opinion is this: you don't watch news just to hear what you want to hear. You know, you don't watch or get information from people who only say and only think the way you think, because you won't be getting anything new. You won't be, you want to know, or at least I want to know, like, well, why is that person talking that way? Well, what was their experience? What was their background? You know, how did they come or form their value system? So when we talk about people like Whoopi Goldberg, talk about people like Joe Rogan, you know, those public figures fall under the bracket of, for me at least, people who I'm interested in hearing their perspectives or points of view. And that, if, for example, if they say something that isn't popular, they shouldn't necessarily get drummed or fired off television or radio, wherever they are. And I, you know, as I'm hearing myself now, I can't believe that I'm saying this, because maybe when I was younger, perhaps when I was in college, I don't know if I've ever wanted people to get fired because of what they said. It was just that when they said it, yeah, it made my eyebrows raise a bit. And when I was younger, I listened to Howard Stern. Years ago, I think when I was a teenager, maybe in college, I had the audacity to call Howard Stern. And he pretty much called me every name in the book, but an N-word. And I said, well, I won't be calling back. I won't be calling back. Now, did I continue to listen to Howard Stern after that? Yeah, I did. Did I continue to listen to him as much as I previously had? No. right? But would I deny, look, Howard Stern, very funny, and was controversial and saying things that were racially insensitive. As for Joe Rogan, look, I like Joe Rogan. I like his style, the guests that he has booked, people that he's had on, clearly people that are not in my circle of, of friends, or, from Miss Pat, this Black comedian that he's had on a number of times, Joey Diaz. Those are the two that stand out the most for me. But he's also had people who were non-conformist scientists, writers. I mean, people that have a whole host of perspectives that I don't necessarily have, but he represents something new. Now, I saw that video, the video in question of him saying, the N-word and Planet of the Apes and all that. Was it cringe? Yes. Would I have said it in his position? No. But I mean, part of what gets people like him, or these people online, any entertainer actually, generally they have to be edgy in order to get an audience. And he was trying to be edgy. Did he fail? Maybe he didn't know at the time he did. But now, I guess what, how many years later, 10, 11, 12 years later, he's now apologizing for what he said. He probably thought he would never have to do something like that. I mean, it probably didn't even occur to him. And now with the Spotify $100 million deal, I'll just say this, I heard that Rumble, the social media platform, has offered Joe Rogan a counter $100 million deal. I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating. I think we should continue to watch the stories. We should continue to watch how the stories unfold. I think it's interesting, and it's shaping how we are moving in the 21st century in terms of media, in terms of digital platforms, in terms of how new talent and new artists, not new in terms of Joe Rogan or Whoopi Goldberg, but how people make a name for themselves. And I'll say this, look, Joe Rogan is a Gen Xer. He was born in 1967. He and I are the same age. And there's a lot about Joe Rogan that is specific to Gen X, the Generation X generation, if you will. So and also he's from Newark, New Jersey, grew up in New Jersey. So people like Joe Rogan, these are the people I went to college with. These are the people I went to school with, right? Now, not everybody understands that. I'm telling you one thing, and of course that, people are looking at him as saying, he said the word, he said the N-word, so therefore he is bad, he should be canceled. I wouldn't go as far as saying that he should be canceled. He apologized and he did all this other stuff. Do I think that he's a racist? Well, that's a conversation for another day. But I do think that he should be allowed to stay on his show, on Spotify. If the artists want to pull their songs, okay, so be it. I think Whoopi should be able to stay on the air, not get fired. I think Roseanne Barr should be allowed to stay on air. She should have been allowed to keep her show. The remake of Roseanne. And I also think that what's the woman from the View competition show? The manager, Sharon Osbourne, I think she should have been allowed to keep her show or her spot. what happens when you start firing people like this? I mean, you just look at what happened to Whoopi Goldberg, right? She thought she was on the right side. She thought she was on the right side. And so she could say whatever she wanted without any repercussions because she represented the liberal side. And even in her attempts to be liberal, people on her side, so her so-called side, came out and canceled her. So where does it begin and where does it end? And will you wake up one day and all of a sudden be canceled?